Good morning, guys. It is Rachel Feldman. I am the owner of yourhealthcoachbiz.com. I wanted to come in here today. Let me just shut my email down. I wanted to come in here today because not only am I seeing a lot of questions in my paid group, in my free group, but I also have had a lot of coaches, brand new coaches coming out of school asking me, what program should I buy? So I wanted to actually talk about the elements of creating your signature offer, because sometimes this can be extremely overwhelming. So here's action steps for those of you who are, of course, going to take action. Drop your comments below, and of course, I'll answer them personally. So number one, when you're thinking about your signature offer, I want you to actually think about the steps. And I'll tell you exactly what this means. Steps in actually two ways. Number one, I want you to think about the steps that it takes for your ideal client to get from 0 to step 4. And I know you might be saying, well, these are, of course, different steps. You know, there's so many different steps. But the truth is, if you sit down right now and you say, step 1 is, step 2 is, step 3 is, in that client journey, I want you to think of how essential it is at each step for your client to go through. When you're thinking about your signature system, that means that your freebie, your free offer is, of course, mini step number 1. Now, it can be extremely overwhelming to say, well, I have all these offers and I have all these. I saw somebody just post, I'm doing a workshop and nobody's coming. My question is to reverse engineer from your actual signature program, or that means signature steps within the program. I'm actually going to show you how you can pull those out from our programs. I said to her, does this make sense for what you're offering? Now, a lot of us look at our list building as the beginning entry point. And so, of course, we're talking about a bunch of different problems. So action step number 1 is to write down the 30 problems that your ideal client has. Then action step number 2 is actually to say, well, within what I want to be known for. So if I am known for a gut coach, in my signature process, I have detox, and then I have going on paleo. This was my process. Detox, going on paleo, and then, of course, working on mindset. Those were the 3 elements, my 3 pillars that I constantly focused on. Within my signature system was a detox program that was one signature process. It was part of the steps of what I know my ideal client needed to do, because my ideal client had food allergies. My ideal client had autoimmune. My ideal client had parasitic infections, candida, all these different things that they had, but I had to be able to simplify it. One of the biggest problems that I see with coaches is we have a tough time simplifying what we do. So we get extremely wordy, we get caught up in the marketing, but I want you to think, okay, when you went through your healing process, what were those steps for you? When you're thinking about a signature program, that might have its own steps. My detox had a detox program, an elimination stage. And then, of course, in my one-on-one, I would say, okay, are we ready to graduate to this next step? When you're thinking about your freebies, I want you to actually think about the flow. How does the freebie that you're offering, how does the workshop that you're doing, how's the live? Or I hope you guys are networking. If you're not networking, it's really hard in that beginning stage to get fully booked, because you're not getting discovery calls. You're not getting that visibility from other people's lists. You're hoping that somebody lands on your social media. I will tell you, hint, still to this day, and the way that I built Rachel's Wellness organically to 7,000 people and got clients is I put videos on YouTube, because still to this day, people were searching. And that's why I always say, if you have a freebie, if you have a workshop, go and actually put that on YouTube, because you'll be so surprised that somebody will actually be searching. that freebie, as long as it makes sense leading to your signature offer, is going to be step number one. Let me just show you in the clarity of just showing you this one program. I'm going to show you how to pick out titles. So if you are feeling stuck, hold on. If you are feeling, let me just stop sharing for a second. If you are feeling stuck, it's not going to be difficult for you in that beginning stage of your business to actually say, here's my signature process. All right, let me just show you here. Because in the beginning stages, I would say this is one of the most difficult parts. I want you to go into the program that you have. I want you to look at this. So if I am a gut coach and one of my signature steps is, of course, dealing with stress, I'm going to show you exactly how you can pull from the workbooks. I'm going to show you also in the Mindset Makeover, because that was a program that I used constantly with moms. I used it even at gyms. I'm going to show you how you can pull out the steps. So right here, month one, let me go into the guide. So step one of this signature program is understanding stress. The components within the program. And I'm going to just show you how you can go in here and go to these individual worksheet handouts. The components within understanding stress and the subtopics of this is baseline completion questionnaire. So first, find your baseline. 2, understanding your food, mood, and poop journal. 3, progressive relaxation. 4, the wheel of life. Where does stress show up in my body? Where does stress manifest? So when you're presenting to actually your ideal client on a discovery call, or you're doing your workshop, or you have a freebie, you can say, one of the signature steps that I have in my program is we have to deal with stress. Some of you, of course, have different signature offers. I think the most important advice that I would give you is know your ideal client and know yourself. What does that mean? That means that you have to think at step one, and this is where we talk about a 3-tier. At step one, do you want step one actually to be a shorter program so that this 3-month stress or the 3-month mindset makeover or the 4-month reboot is actually the last step, making it so that if you work with somebody for 6 months, in theory, they could go through each step. Step number 1 can be a 30-day. So step number 1 could be, the detox or the gut fix, if we're doing this as far as a gut coach. Jennifer, the other day, she actually deals with really overwhelmed moms that have kids that have food allergies, intolerances. And so we talked about what would be those steps for her signature process. She is looking between the 4-month reboot and the 3-month stress program. So let me go and show you how in month 2, for Jennifer to explain her signature process to a mom, she's able to then go into the guide, and you can make a fancy acronym, you can make a catchy title, understanding relaxation. So I could say in the second step of my signature process, it's really understanding relaxation. Going, of course, in here, looking at what are the key things that stands out. How do we do relaxation when, of course, we feel stressed? How do we step into that self-care? How do we move out of our own, old ways of kind of being so busy? How do we manage that as a mom? So going over, how do we actually do that? And then in month 3, we actually can pull out and make these kind of fancy acronym, fancy title, personalizing, practicing, prioritizing your plan, which means like really at that last step, it's like, how do you do the check-ins? How do you actually catch yourself? Because in that 3rd month of this hero journey, this signature process, it's how do we catch ourselves to not go back into those stressful situations? How do we actually do these different steps? Is everyone getting that? Drop a 1 if we're kind of getting that, and tell me if you're not. I'm going to show you same thing with Reboot, which is the other program that she's looking at. Same thing. Here are 4 steps. So I'm going to look at the modules: reboot your mind, reboot what you eat and drink, reboot your body, reboot your life. So you could actually have this as like the 4R method or the 4R process. And keep in mind, this can be actually your longer program. If you are looking for the shorter program, and this is when we were looking at her signature system, that's why she was like, I really love Revitalize, because I know that most of these moms who are having kids with food allergies are not eating clean. So we looked at her process also. What are her weekly ebooks? So she can say when she's explaining to somebody, yeah, this is what, this is how I help my clients, is that we have to go through like really committing to change, that beginning transformation, because moms are so busy and we often lose sight of ourselves. So I have a day-by-day program that helps this mom to put herself first. Food focus. What are we going to eat? How are we going to feed our family? Putting yourself first, and exercise. And the reason that I wanted to kind of show those is it can get really overwhelming for everyone to see, how do I use a program? How do I actually market that program? And when you're thinking about the marketing of your program, or even when you are networking and you're saying, yeah, I'm doing this workshop on food allergies. This is exactly one of the reasons in my program that it's gluten-free, that I really, I make sure that these are the kind of foods, and really go into the explanation of why that signature process is essential for your client. So I wanted to just show that, because I see a lot of people not only asking about programs, but really not understanding their ideal client as well as they need to. My biggest tip for that is get people on a discovery call. It doesn't mean that you should post just on Facebook or post on Instagram and say that you're looking for people. I always say, go into people who are in your sphere, in your space, your friends, your family. Find people that fit your ideal client. Start asking them what exactly are the problems that they deal with, and actually hear from them their own verbiage. Start to understand, for that stressed mom that she's talking about, does it make sense for her to have a 4-month program? Does it make sense for her to actually have that 4-month program and then break it out individually in steps, meaning that's her entire signature process? Is that 4-month? Or is it better to have that lower cost option as step 1, really something that also appeals to what that mom, she wants weight loss, that's part of the Revitalize. And then of course, looking at what problems you solve, as we said, and then defining what are those 3 big top problems that you want to focus on. And those 3 top big problems can of course be solved in those signature steps, making sure that at the end you reverse engineer back and say, so my signature process is, these are the steps in my method. I created this because I find that women who are struggling with 1, 2, 3 need to take the following action steps. I developed this program because out of my own issues or my problems or the problems that my children faced, I was able to sit there and see that this was missing in the industry, that this is something that I needed to really be teaching. And that's why this became my purpose. So making sure that you also know what you're offering, because it's really difficult to promote anything that you're doing if 1, you don't believe it, or 2, you're not super clear. So guys, if you have any questions, I just wanted to jump in this morning impromptu, say hello to everyone, and just go over some of the things that I was talking about with this one coach. And hopefully this makes sense and helps you to actually take a step back If you are brand new, if you're extremely overwhelmed, I am a very visual person, like I think all of us are. I would go like this. Put 3 or 4 boxes. You can actually do it right on a whiteboard or do it on a piece of paper and say, step 1 is, step 2 is, step 3 is, step 4. This is also great for those of you who have signature systems like a low-cost offer leading into a membership, or a lower cost offer such as a single session leading into your larger program. That single session is the jump start. The same as a low-cost program is a jump start. The same as a self-paced program is a jump start. So when you're thinking of that jump start, what is that step 1 jump start? What problems does it solve? Who's it ideal for? And how are you going to really make sure that you have that succinct process so that you know what you're teaching and you can easily market it? All right, guys, without further ado, I will see you later. If you have any questions, drop them below.